Welcome to the Soul Touched by Dogs podcast, the show for dog lovers who see dogs not as toys or tools, but wise souls worth our respect and care. I'm Anke Herman, and I'm your host. I talk to pawsome humans, people who do great work for dogs and their people. So come and join us for today's conversation. Hello and welcome, Paul. I'm extra excited to have you here.
Back at you.
Lovely. So I have here with me today the original dog whisperer. So you're in for an extra treat. So Paul, share with people, where in this lovely world are you and what's your business with dogs?
Well, I never know what's going to come out of my mouth anymore, so bear with me. So when I was writing my latest book, it's called Training for the, wait a minute. Shameless plug. When I wrote this book, I had a number of avenues I could go down because I'm celebrating my 50th year as a professional dog trainer. There's not many of us old fogies around anymore. And so I was trying to decide, well, what theme do I want to go with? And it turned out I have so many stories. I could fill a lot of these books, but I decided that what I would like to do is celebrate the progress that we've all made over the last number of decades on treating dogs kindness. Is that a dog?
I've got two right here, my two girls.
Oh,
right
well,
here.
if they're small enough to pick them up, show them to the camera. All right, okay. And so I decided what I wanted to do is make this a celebration, make the book a celebration of especially, I think, the two biggest changes since I started training back in the 70s to what's going on now. The biggest, I think, is empathy for dogs. Instead of being we own dogs and their property, it's their family members and their friends. And that has resulted, and I did a short study on it, in hundreds of millions of dogs being saved over the last hundreds of millions because people's hearts have expanded, all because of dogs. And we look at those doleful eyes looking up at us, and we see that happy wagging tail. I'm convinced that politics would be, we wouldn't have as many problems if while everybody was meeting, they were holding a puppy in their hands.
I agree.
If anybody treated that puppy, they're out of there, And so dogs teach us a lot about ourselves. And so I don't get too long-winded. I feel, as you do, not only lucky, but blessed that we've been able to work with these wonderful souls all these years.
I love that. I love this so much. And actually, I will probably not be able to unsee that in politics now. Always imagine everybody with a puppy. That's so cool. So, I mean, like when I kind of first had my first dog, that's kind of 20 years ago, things have come a long way, especially where I'm in Spain. It's like, the way people relate to dogs has come quite a long way. What, on the scale to where we came from, where dogs were literally like tools or toys for the kids or something, like something that serves us, to in your ideal world where we would want to get to, where do you think we're at?
Boy, that's a really good question because people like you and I and the people that we have as friends and family, we look at dogs as basically like mirrors of who we are. Well, I'm going to have to work on that because I'm feeling really stressed and everything. And it shows us what we have to work on. But it also talks about if there is a meaning to life, which is another good topic for a program, by the way. If there is a meaning to life, the whole purpose, which I wish we would have learned when we were in grade school, is the whole purpose of life is to expand your heart. And that's it. And dogs allow us to do that. And so on a scale from 1 to 10, I think we've gone from a 1 to 2 back 50 years ago because of how I used to treat dogs. For the first 14 years as a professional dog trainer, I didn't use treats. And yet I had a dog who went on to become nationally recognized for how obedient she was, and she wasn't trained with treats. But it turns out she was just a great spirit, and she could handle anything. She just rolled with it. But then after about 14 years, I said, boy, this is no way to treat a family member and a friend. And I had to go back to school to learn force-free, reward-based dog training, nonviolent dog training. And so from a 1 to 2 50 years ago. I think we're up to a solid 7.
Okay.
If we can get rid of the whole property angle, and you can have more programs like yours to help expand the message that, dogs are a lot more than we thought they were. And so I don't get too long-winded here, but dog trainers, just like any teacher of anything, you're learning how to dance, you're learning a new language, you're learning anything. The two biggest points we all try to make is that, number one, education. People, I don't know calculus. I don't know how to play a trumpet. I'm ignorant of those skills, so I have to learn them. But so education is number one, but motivation is number two. And once people learn to what their dogs can do and what their abilities are and what they really mean to us in our lives, we're starting motivating to become even closer and closer and closer to them. So I think we're up to a solid 7, but boy, we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, no, it feels like, I think it's my sensation too that we've come a long way, but there's also, when I'm there's certain people on the internet that you kind of follow and you think, well, there's almost like a pushback. There's a particular guy that I have in mind, like he's a dog trainer in Mallorca, right? And he's constantly talking about how basically, like, his narrative is fairly simple, and it's always about all problems that we have with dogs being aggressive and biting people and attacking each other. It all comes from owners that are too permissive, like we're too nice to our dogs, right? So there is, and I think the part that I see dangerous and things like that is like there's a half truth in it, right? They when people don't give a dog leadership, like it's not about just allowing the dog to do just anything, right? So it's about teaching. And so now he comes as like, well, they're just like too lenient, and they're like, oh, you can't correct the dog at all. So, well, of course, the dog thinks they're boss. And then, and the problem is that the case he's making, and I see people like, oh, this is the way, like, this makes sense, right? And it's almost like pushing back, because at the end of the day, it does more harm than good, because it doesn't inspire people who are maybe not consistent in their guidelines. Then that's not speaking to them, but the people who kind of looking for an excuse to control the dog will use that as the justification that I'm right in punishing the dog.
Boy, that's a big wall. When I switched over to positive training back in the late 80s and everything, I found that because I can speak with authority on this because I was very successful using those, and I'm very successful using these. But you just take a step back and say, science is science. Mm-hmm. So here's the two big secrets in dog training, which I'm sure you've never heard before. It's number one, dogs are transactional. Whoever has the most value or money, that's who the dog listens to. So the very first thing we do is we tell our clients to increase their value. So just playing with it for a second, if you have real chicken, turkey, cheese, hamburger, steak, bacon, roast beef, hot dog, you are worth $10,000 to $20,000. If you have dry treats when you first get a dog, you're worth $1,000 to $10,000, and your praise is worth about 50 cents. And people get, what do you mean? I bathe this dog, I feed this dog. What do you mean it's only worth 50 cents? Well, science is science, because your competition is Mother Nature. Mother Nature in the form of anything novel, anything new, the sights, the sounds, the smells, other dogs, cats, squirrels, the UPS driver, United Parcel Service driver that comes to our doors and drops stuff off and everything. That's a $50,000 distraction. So if dogs listen to who has the most value, the first thing you have to do is increase your value. And this directly, hopefully, addresses what you just were talking about, Anka, is that fear can increase your value. The dog says, I better not do something because something bad is going to happen to me. But the second is rewards, reinforcements, positive reinforcements. They're also increasing your value. So the sliver of truth that you were talking about, it is true that positive reward-based dog training, it's positive, but it's not permissive. Safety is number one. So you have to set up an environment where the dog can basically learn how to do stuff without a fear of being hurt or being physically or emotionally damaged. And so there is a little truth that negative training does work because you've increased your value. However, and now I'm on a soapbox, of course, if we humans have the intelligence and creativity and intuitive sense to go to the moon, to do all the wonderful things we've done, we can certainly get a dog to learn how to sit, lie down, stay, get you a soda out of the refrigerator if you want, and they think it's their idea and they really love it. So why can't we do that? The fact is we can. And all the trainers and all of the programs, for instance, like yours that are coming out, are helping to spread that message. But boy, it takes a long time to change a habit. Yeah. For you dog enthusiasts in the audience, let me take some, if there are any over here, more than my my friends here. If you have a little bit of value and you feel that you can change a dog's environment, how long does it take? Change the environment to change their behavior? 2 to 12 months. My housemate, who I've been living with for 9 years, dear friend of mine, changed the light on our kitchen wall 10 months ago. I'm still looking at that other wall because I've been looking at it for 10 months. So all science, again, I'm getting long-winded, but all science is just correcting neural pathways. While we're talking, little neurons are connecting. Hello, Joe, what are we learning here? No, you want to go over there to Fred. And a neural pathway is a behavior. You connect enough of them and you replace the old behaviors with new behaviors. First thing you have to do is increase your value because dogs are transactional. And number 2, dogs are contextual. Why does it take 2 to 12 months? If you see somebody at work and then 2 months later you see them in a restaurant and you go, I know that person from someplace. Because I just can't get it. Yeah. And so you have to reintroduce yourself. And then 2 months later, you're in Spain and you see the person sitting at a little coffee shop. And you go, I know that person. Gosh darn it. But you can't quite place it. That's not because the dog or you are stupid. It's just because not enough neural pathways have connected. That's why it takes 2 to 12 months. Science is science. So those are the 2 big secrets in dog training. Increase your value. Number 1, make a sound, like a kissy sound. And give your dog a treat. Pavlov used to ring bells. So kissy sound treat. Within a day and a half, the dog says, oh, you never have to say no anymore. Just make that kissy sound and tell me what you want me to do instead. And so you have to have big money with you for a couple of months, but just take all the pressure off you and realize Mother Nature's doing all the work for us anyway, and it takes her 2 to 12 months to build these roads.
I love that. I love that. So now let's okay, we've established chicken. So now how else do I increase my value? Right? Do I have to then go and say, well, let's just get some Serrano ham out? Yeah. Are there other things than food?
You're spot on. And it's the number 1 transition that people like me who were negative trainers become, well, I don't want to have to bribe my dog and give them treats all my life. Science is science. So number 1, you find something the dog really likes to do is go outside. You have them sit, and then you say, okay. That's a safety concern among anything. Yes. My dog is jumping on me. What do you want your dog to do instead? My dog is stealing food off the counter. What do you want your dog to do instead without having to use food? Life rewards are anything a dog wants that isn't food. Want to go for a walk, want to get in the car, want to chase a ball, want to get petted, want to get on the couch. You can do all of those things as long as you sit, pick up a toy, go to your bed, lie down, look at me and ask, and I'll give it to you until it becomes a habit. And then you don't have to use treats anymore. How long does it take? 2 to 12 months. And the other thing is form what is called behavioral change. You teach it, this is stuff you already know. You teach a dog to sit, you give them a treat, pet them. You teach a dog to go to their bed and sit. Then you give them the treat. Teach a dog to go to your bed, sit down, stay, come, all that stuff. And that's a behavioral change. It's why here, do they have lotteries in Spain?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's why the people who set up the lotteries, you don't have to pay people to buy a lottery ticket. They have found out that, and in science it's called anticipatory response. Whenever dogs can anticipate something great is going to happen, they'll do whatever you want. Food isn't involved. And so the lottery people were very smart. They set up these algorithms and they said, you know, if we get this amount of people to win this amount of money, we'll start to form those neural pathways until eventually there will be billion-dollar payouts. And we can pay them less and less and less and less and less. And that is exactly how it worked with dogs.
That's a classic because like in Spain, people are like obsessed with lottery, right? It's kind of like the primary investment strategy, right? And so, and it is true. Like you just need occasionally somebody here that somebody's won somewhere, and people spend massive amounts on the lottery just in that hope that maybe next time yeah.
Oh, I just might win that. Maybe it's my turn. And that's how we act. This is how dogs act. Science is science.
And I love this, like, yeah, I love the science piece to it because it somehow it feels like it takes the argument out for people.
Well, you know, I really like that. When you talk about negative training, the first thing I ask, because you try not to be judgmental or anything, you just get to the science part. Who did you learn your positive training from? And I have yet to meet a person who did what I used to do, the leash corrections, the pinning the dog to the ground, the jabbing, all that other stuff. I have yet to meet somebody who has really taken a solid course in reward-based dog training.
Yeah.
So they can say, well, what is it you did? And can I show you something? You don't have to believe, as you can tell, I'm very long-winded, but you don't have to keep talking to somebody. They need to A, see it, and B, be able to do it.
Yeah.
All that being said, some people still won't change because they're so successful using negatives, and that's how they identify themselves. So, but all we can do is, one dog at a time, one person at a time, and hope for the best.
Yeah, and I think there does seem to be a momentum that's picking up, right?
Yes,
And I did a summit in February, and I remember we had like a little panel discussion where I got everybody in the room, and I remember she said, I can't believe, like, for 30 years I've been trying to spread this message and always felt it was just me yelling into the wind. And now just to be in a room with a whole bunch of other people looking in the same direction, so it feels it's sort of picking up more as not just some weirdo who just doesn't get it, but it actually, people get to see. It's like, hey, there is a better way of doing this,
Boy, you're spot on. I mean, I agree with that. But the direct result of that is, I mentioned earlier, is that hundreds of millions of dogs have been saved because of this. But the other big factor is the motivation of why am I working with my dog? Why is because we feel better about ourselves. In my children's program, Pause for Peace, I'll give you a really quick, my book is all full of these stories, but in the Pause for Peace program, we would have children in the back of the room, and I brought in my 110-pound golden retriever, and everybody's a little nervous about dogs, and they'd be in the back of the room, and I said, Grady's a little bit nervous too. You're going to like this story. And Grady's a little bit nervous too. Can you help him feel a little bit more comfortable? So I give everybody a treat, and especially the people in the back of the room first, and I said, will you say, Grady, find it? And so I'm in the back and there's kids in front of me. I'm feeling safe and this is it. And what we've just done is we've triggered curiosity. Curiosity is the #1 door opener for fears. And so, I'm safe, created an environment for safety. I'm going to take the treat and go find it. The moment Grady takes the treat, a bridge is formed. So Mother Nature, in the form of this big dog with these big teeth and everything, has just taken a gift from this child, Mother Nature in the child. And so what have you done is you've reinforced something in the child's heart. You've opened up the child's heart and they said, I'm more connected to Mother Nature. But in reality, she's saying, well, maybe this dog isn't so bad after all. At the end of the class, all the children are petting this big old dog. There's like 10 hands on the dog because he's so big. And at the end, I always finish, I say, you were able to get this big dog to sit and lie down and to pick up toys and to do tricks. And you never had to yell and you never had to correct him. You didn't say no or get angry. Imagine what you can do with your brothers and sisters and friends. So that makes it real for them. Yeah. And again, you can talk a lot and I talk a lot, but you have to show them it's possible and then they have to do it themselves.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. And that brings me to your book, which I've got, and it comes with a whole bunch of videos where
Woo-hoo!
you can actually see this in action.
Yes.
So let people know where they can get their paws on it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much
Where
for
they
this.
can find out about you, but I think definitely get your paws on the book, because it does. That's the thing. It does come with a whole bunch of extra resources and videos where you can see this in action, and it's like, oh, it makes so much sense. You can almost like put two and two together, like how it would make sense for the dog.
Yeah. How many people do you talk to? All of a sudden, their mouth opens, goes, "Of course, it's so simple. It makes sense. We just have to learn how to do it." So thank you for that. So they can go to my website, originaldogwhisperer.com. And the neat thing about the book is it's a read and watch. So it's the first one I think that's been out there. So you can hold a book in your hands and go on the internet, and then you can actually click a button that shows what we've just talked about. So that's number one. You can buy it on Amazon also, but if you buy it off my website, $3 from the sale of each book goes to the nonprofits that I mentioned in the book. So if you can spend a little extra time doing that, that would be really appreciated. Everybody benefits. So thank you for allowing me to do that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I can highly recommend it because I've got it and I got hooked on the videos, and it's just like delightful to see it in action, right? It just brings it to life in this most beautiful way. Well, so thank you, and we'll obviously put the links below the video above, or if you watch if you watch it, and if you're on the podcast, it's obviously in the show notes. So we're going to make it easy to find, so you don't have to go very far. Well, thank you so much. This was absolutely delightful, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to like looking for excuses to bring you back.
Well, that went quick, didn't it? You can always tell something is fun when 2 seconds later it's over. So I appreciate the opportunity. All right, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so other dog lovers can find the show. If you haven't already, head over to soultouchedbydogs.com and sign up for weekly doggy cuteness, tips, recommendations, and personal stories to warm your dog-loving heart. And if you know a awesome human you think I should interview, I'd love an introduction. Email me at Anke, that's ANKE, at soultouchedbydogs.com.